Well, as we move toward the election or elections next Tuesday, we we continue to be amazed at some of the stories. I mean, you know about what's going on in the presidential race, but the biggest challenge of them all may be the corruption that we're watching unfold right before our very eyes out in Macomb County. We've had a couple of officials who have been indicted, who have been charged with taking bribes. You wonder why the bribers aren't being charged as well. Maybe they will be at some point. Who knows? Meantime, we find out from the Macomb Daily over the weekend that residents in 11 different Macomb County communities are paying $5 million in legal fees, including $1,000 per hour payments to a New York law firm, as part of their sewer rates for two legal actions that have been filed by the Public Works Commissioner in the county, Anthony Marrocco. Why? Well, let's try to find out. Mark Hackel joins us, the Macomb County Executive. Good morning.
Good morning, Frank. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Only $5 million in legal fees. That's a bargain.
You know, if I could start this off by just saying this, there's always this question, is this political? This is not about politics. It's not about trying to reach out to voters. It's about talking to the ratepayers right now and explaining to them what happened and why their water rates are so high. And I would offer this up. If there's any contradictory statements that I may make that I think the public works official here in Macomb County makes, he needs to call into your show personally, not his public speaking person, not somebody that's from his political campaign, because this isn't political. What we uncovered was absolutely unconscionable. It took me 47 days and 2 different FOIAs to get information from his office. And what we found was absolutely unacceptable. And in fact, in that Macomb Daily article that you just mentioned, credit to Jamie Cook, who did a great job in that story. He got his deputy from his office to say that it turned out not to be a very good idea regarding the lawsuits. Well, who they charged this to should have been the county, but it wouldn't have happened. The county would have never allowed this litigation to take place. So what did he do? He used what we call the slush fund that we've been trying to get our hands on to figure out exactly what he's doing with it. And he charged ratepayers of 11 communities for 2 lawsuits, $5.6 million. And they're the ones bearing the burden for this, and it was not their responsibility. And to put it into perspective, one of those lawsuits with the Great Lakes Water Authority was $3.8 million to one firm in a 7-month period. There isn't an attorney out there listening to what I just said. $3.8 million in a 7-month period for a failed lawsuit to take control over contracts, which was unconscionable. I mean, I cannot believe he did this, and now we've got to try to figure out how do we make this right. Why? Because one community in particular, out of the 11, Sterling Heights, has questioned us with their city manager, their finance director, as well as the person that understands their legal counsel, came in and said to us, we shouldn't have paid this bill. Why are we paying for this? And they are 100% correct. This should not have been borne by those 11 communities, and their water rates are going up, not because of Great Lakes Water Authority. It's not because of their locals. Those are very minimal cost increases. Their big cost increase is the sewer side of the bill with Public Works because of what we just uncovered here, $5.6 million in legal fees that should have never been dealt with to begin with. This was not his responsibility, and it certainly wasn't the responsibility of those communities to pay for that.
Well, I'm still puzzled as to what he is suing over, and if they were failed lawsuits, why he paid those kind of outrageous rates. And by the way, we have numerous times, at least 4 times in recent weeks, tried to get Mr. Marrocco on the air, twice in the last week and a half, Terry tells me, and we've been unable to. So I mean, that's his choice. That's fine.
He won't. And the reason for it is because these are facts. They're going to want to brush this off as being politics, typical political thing. I've been dealing with this for the 2-year period that I realized there have been problems within that office about transparency. If you compare what's going on in Oakland County to Macomb County, the transparency of their documentation, in Macomb County, every unit of government, I don't care if it's prosecutor, sheriff, clerk, treasurer, any one of us, and even the departments, every transaction is online. Every check that is written is online. I had a FOIA, Department of Public Works here in Macomb County, and it took 2 FOIA requests. 47 days later, we're prepared to go to court to get these documents, and he finally gives them up. And when he did, what we got covered was incredible. But if you look at Oakland County, they have an agreement with their public works along with the county to make sure that everything follows the directions of every other unit of government. And here in Macomb County, this guy doesn't want that to happen because of what we're finding out right now. I'll throw this at it. We were able to uncover some of the simpler things too. He didn't like the fact that the Board of Commissioners wouldn't give him a car that cost $10,000 more than what he was allotted. So what he did, he paid for it out of those drain district funds. So those 11 municipalities, once again, paid for a car that was $10,000 more. It was not their responsibility to pay for that car. There's a bill in there for a $2 payment that he bought a newspaper, Macomb Daily newspaper, that he charged to those municipalities. So there's more issues regarding this, along with obviously the one that we find the most glaring, and that's that $5.6 million in legal fees that ratepayers are paying for. And we're now, what we're doing, because we don't want the ratepayers or the municipalities to have to pay any more for it, we're entering into pre-suit negotiations with the 11 communities that are affected because we realize after talking to my finance director, the risk manager for the county and corporation council, we have a liability. We have a problem. What he did as being a rogue agent of the county and making these communities pay for it, we have to make good on what just happened to those ratepayers. So we're entering into what is going to be called pre-suit negotiations to try to figure out how do we move forward, if you will, repay those ratepayers what they paid for.
You want to get the money back. You want to get the money back.
And that's exactly what we're going to have to do. Otherwise, they're going to take us to court, and they're going to get out of us, and we're going to expend all these legal fees to try to figure this out, because there is no question anyone who has looked at this, talked about it, and even his own deputy had admit in the Macomb Daily article what they did, looking back, 2020 hindsight, wasn't a very good idea.
Well, here's the other thing. Is any of that money winding up back with him in his campaign or anything?
You know, that's a question. Again, I don't know that. It's always been kind of suspect to begin with. But, that's sort of political side of it. My job is, okay, if somebody was wrong, and I have the oversight of what's going on in general over the county, if people have the expectation of me with this new form of government, I can't just sit back and say, you know what, turn a blind eye to this, let it go. Nobody knows about it, let's not hear it. Let the locals take the blame from the residents because of their rate increases. Let the Great Lakes Water Authority of Detroit take the blame for the increases in their water rates, when I know darn well the reasons why their rates are increasing is because of the slush fund that the public works official has here in Macomb County, and there's no transparency or budgets that are set forth to explain what we're paying for and why we're paying for it. This is embarrassing to say this. I had a FOIA, 2 different separate FOIAs, a unit of government here in Macomb County, to get information, and I had to run down to his office with a check for $240 to pay for those FOIA documents. Never has that ever happened in the history of this county.
Unbelievable, but so it goes as we head toward next Tuesday. We'll see what happens in that race with Candice Miller. Mark Hackel, thanks for being with us. Good to have you on the show as always.